Hello everyone, welcome to the computer aided drawing class. In today's lecture we gonna continue the introduction on the AutoCAD that we give or started the previous meeting. In the previous meeting we already discussed the different windows, the screen that we basically use to create especially two-dimensional sketches. And then we give like a very quick introduction and simple cases how we can create a two-dimensional sketch using AutoCAD. And we discuss even the line drawing, how we can draw horizontal line, vertical line, inclined line. And as I mentioned, we just use this command to create some simple sketches, two-dimensional sketches. Today we're gonna continue the other commands, but I will start first by with a very quick revision on the line drawing, and then we're gonna proceed with the other commands and for creating two-dimensional sketches. Also, we're gonna consider the command that would be used for modifying an AutoCAD two-dimensional sketch. So this is gonna be the main topic or outline of today's lecture or today's meeting. So starting, as I mentioned, with the line. As we discussed the previous meeting, we'd have different options and different ways of drawing or creating a line. But generally, we said that any two-dimensional sketch, it should include either lines, it should include either circles, or curves or arcs. Like if we're gonna talk about any two-dimensional sketch, it's just a composition of set of lines, circle, and arcs. Our main focus right now is just of how we can draw lines, how we can draw circles, how we can do modification for any two-dimensional sketch that is composed of just lines and circles. As for the arcs or the curves, we're just going to consider them in a separate topic, which is related to the tangencies. We have to practice and understand the concept of the tangencies in engineering drawing and how we can create it either by hand or using the AutoCAD. So as for the line, as we discussed the previous meeting, that we do have different options to recall or ask AutoCAD to create or draw a line. We can either directly click on this icon, or simply you can use the keyboard, just type L, which stands for line. Even you're gonna see the command will be shown here, and then directly press enter and space. And we said that the space and the enter in AutoCAD, they do the same function. So it means that you basically you already recall the command itself, that you're already asking AutoCAD to create a line. And as you can see that the cursor shape has been changed into two intersecting lines. This indicates that AutoCAD asks you to specify a point. We discussed the previous meeting all of the different shapes of the cursor. So we said that, if you remember, that in case that would have two intersecting lines, this indicates that AutoCAD asks you to specify a point. And this is basically what happened. And then we agreed that our main instructor, our main teacher is this command window. This is the main important part, or the most important part of the AutoCAD software. Like if we read the instruction that already given here, that we do have the command name, which is line, and AutoCAD asks us to specify first point. So that's why the cursor is already two intersecting lines. So to draw a line, intuitively the line, it should be set up between 2 points, start point and end point. So simply one of the options that we can use directly the mouse and the cursor and click on the screen over this blank window, and this is gonna give us the first point. And then AutoCAD automatically in the command instruction has been changed to specify next point. So if you click one more time, AutoCAD gonna pick this point at the end point of the first line, and then it's gonna use this point as a start point for a new line. This is how AutoCAD creates or basically generates. So you can able to, as long as you press or click, left click over the window, over the screen, you're already creating and generating more lines, where the end of the previous line is gonna be the start of a new line, and so on. If you would like to cancel the commands, you have to press escape, which is the ESC key on the keyboard, or you can just right click and press enter or cancel, or even on the keyboard you can just press enter or space. This automatically get cancelled. So all of these options are just to end up the line command. Either you press enter or space or escape, all of this is gonna cancel the command. Cancel the command, it means that you won't gonna cancel the thing that you just draw. It means that you end using the line command for AutoCAD, and that's why the cursor has been reset back again to the original shape. This is one thing, but how about, for example, if we do have a line, let us record a line one more time, and I decided to draw this set of lines and so on, and for some reason I want to close the loop. So this is like an open loop in this case. Like you do have one line, and there is another line, and so on, but this is like an open loop. I need to close this loop with a line here. So to do it basically, while you're already using the line command, there is an option in AutoCAD. If you just read down there here, AutoCAD asks us to specify next point, or we said that anything that comes between or is confined between these two square brackets, this is an option. It means that the default thing that you're already using is just specifying next points. But how about if you would like to close the loop? As I mentioned, like this is an open loop. How about if I'd like to close the loop? Simply, you can close it directly. If you just press C, which stands for close, and as you can see here, the C letter already having a different color, which is the blue color, indicate that if you just type C and press enter is enough, just to type C to record the whole option as close. Or you can either have the option to write the complete word of this option. So it's up to you. You just can type C and press enter, so automatically AutoCAD gonna close the loop. It's gonna complete, it's gonna set up a line between the last point that you picked over the screen to the previous point that you already started drawing this set of lines before, to close just the loop. So this is an option. Also, we can close the loop simply using the snap, which is the object snapping, as we discussed the previous meeting. Like this is an open loop. How about if you would like to close it? Simply you can move to the end of this line and make sure that the square, the green square, the smallest green square is shown, which indicate that this is the end point of an object, like a line. And in this case, if you just click on it, you're already closing the loop. Then you can press escape or enter just to cancel, or just to remove the or reset the line command again. So this is an option how we can close the loop, just to draw a closed loop of set of lines. And another thing that should be considered of the lines, basically, that this loop, if we're gonna look at it, it is composed of multiple lines. Like each one of these lines is a separate object. We said that in AutoCAD, the object, it indicates anything that we already built or create over this screen, whatever in 2-dimension or 3-dimension, it is an object. We mentioned that a line, it is an object, arc, it is an object, circle, it is an object, point, it is an object, edge in a solid object, or in a solid 3-dimensional solid, it is an object, the surface of an object, it is an object, the body or solid object, it is an object. So anything that you create over the screen, it is an object according to the AutoCAD definition. So if we're gonna look to this loop, it is a closed loop, yes, but it is composed of multiple objects, like one line, second, third, fourth, 5 lines already forming this closed loop. Keep this in mind, because how about if you would like to form a closed loop that is composed of multiple lines, but these lines will be treated like a single object. Right now, all of these lines already just, each one is a separate object. But how about if I'd like to set up a loop that is composed of one object as a closed loop, like the whole closed loop is just one object. For example, if you decided to choose this line, you just choose the line itself, but you aren't gonna able to choose another line. You have to go over it or click on it to have multiple lines. But how about, for example, if I'd like to choose, once I choose any point of the closed loop, I choose the closed loop, all of it at once. It means that you're gonna deal with it like a single object. But now this closed loop, it is multiple object. To do it like a single object, we have used the Polyline command, and this is what we're gonna discuss after a while. But for now, let us focus on the line. So the first way or the simplest method of creating a line, just draw serif line, use this query and click on it. And as we discussed in the previous meeting, this is not practical, because basically we are not just drawing just for fun, because we are engineers. So, and it means that we have to create something based on a concept, and we are not putting any detail in our engineering drawing unless we know exactly why we are putting this detail or this line. So there is another option which is more accurate of creating line, that we can specify, draw a line by specifying the coordinates of the two endpoints. We said that to set up a line we need 2 points. So we can identify the coordinates of the start point, identify the coordinate of the second point or the end point, and keep going by identifying the coordinates. But we said also this is not more practical, this takes time. It is more accurate in terms of engineering, yes, but it takes time. To break down an engineering drawing into set of points and do these calculations, this takes very long time. But I'm gonna go over it very quick again, and then I'm gonna give you the most practical way how we can create lines. So generally, if you decided for some reason to create a line between 2 points, and let us assume that the first pointer is 0, 0, like let us consider this case, like I'd like to draw a line, between, straight line for sure, between 2 points. The start point it is 0, the start pointer is 0, 0, this is the coordinate of the start point, and there is another point at, let's say, like 50 and let's say 20. Like this refers to the x coordinate, while this one refers to the y coordinate of the coordinates of the point. The same thing here, the x coordinate is 0 and the y coordinate of this pointer is 0, and I'd like to set up a line between these 2 points. So how we can do it over using AutoCAD? It's gonna be very simple, but the key point here, we have to look to the thing that moves with the cursor here. This thing which is written there, as we move there, there is something that moves here that have even the number already, these highlighted numbers already changing, like specify first point, and there are something that is changed. This thing that moves is known as the dynamic input. Basically, to use AutoCAD for creating or drawing line using points, it is better, it is advised to get rid of this dynamic input and don't use it, because it mixes between, while we draw the line, it mixes between whatever you're gonna specify a point, coordinates of a point like x and y, or specify a length and angle of a line, as we are going to explain now. So for example, how we can get rid of the dynamic input. Basically, to do it, if you just press on this customization icon on the lower right corner of the screen, on this one, if you press on it, you're gonna find a very long list of things or icons that you can include into the status bar. We said that this status bar is important, and we have discussed the previous meeting some of these icons as well, right? So you're gonna find here dynamic input. If you just, it is not activated, it is not shown here, it is not included in this icon. So you have to mark on this one, you have to check this dynamic input so it will be included. So just try to observe the difference as I check or Annie check this one. So if you check, you're gonna find the dynamic input, it will be shown here, this icon, this small letter icon, this is for the dynamic input. Now it is on. On it means that if you use line or any command, you're gonna find this thing already moving with the mouse or this cursor. How about if we would like to switch it off? If we just switch it off, it won't gonna be shown. It is free. Now we can use the line. It is better to get rid of the or switch off the dynamic input, and now you can use the coordinates and the keyboard to specify the, yeah, as I said, to draw a line between these 2 points, 0, 0 and 50, 20. So how we can do it? Basically, simply you're gonna record line, then you just gonna type the coordinates. The start coordinate, it is 0, 0. Use the keyboard. 0, 0. You're gonna see here specify first point that is gonna be written. Then you're gonna press enter or space. We said that they do the same function. Then you're gonna see something already shown here. That is, there is there is 0 point, there is a start point already there somewhere, but it is not seen, and there is a line already set up, right? Then the other pointer is 50, 20 as we agreed, and then press enter. So now we end up with a line. We got a line that is set up between 2.0, and 50, 20. So what is this line? If you to cancel the line command, just press escape or enter. So we already canceling the line. So what is the line? It is not seen. To see a line, which is basically because this space of the drawing over AutoCAD, this one is infinity. It is unlimited space. So to do it, basically you just can type zoom all. Just type zoom, then space, then all, and then space or enter. We said that space or enter do the same function. So it's gonna zoom in into the drawing that you just created, which is your line that you just created. And we are pretty sure that this line should start from the 0 point. We said that this is the XY coordinate, this is the 0 point, and we already set up a line that the end point, it is kind of 50, and on the vertical direction it is 20. So this is another way which is more accurate, but it is not more practical. Like more practical, it would take time, because it is not practical that you have an engineering drawing with so many details and you're gonna break it down into points. But this is one of the options that you can use the keyboard by specifying the coordinates of the 2 point to set up a line and so on. So, and we discussed basically this one. Again, this is like kind of revision. Also, another thing that we would consider for the or another method basically to draw a line is that and this is the more practical way, as we discussed the previous meeting. If we're gonna look to any line, the line at the end, it should be either horizontal line, vertical line, or inclined line. The line in any two-dimensional sketches, it would be shown in any one of the just one of these three forms. It would be horizontal line, vertical line, or inclined line. As for horizontal line or vertical line, it is easy to draw them using the ortho mode, the orthogonality mode. And with this orthogonality mode, you're gonna find this icon. If it is not shown, you just press on this one, but by default, it is already shown there, here. This orthogonality icon, if you press on it, it will be switch on and switch off. And we said that the orthogonality icon, now it is off. It means that if you try to draw in a line, the line it is free to rotate at any angle with different angles as shown here, right? But how about if you would like to put a constraint or confine the line to be just horizontal or just vertical? You have to switch on the orthogonality mode or the ortho mode. You can do it just directly by pressing on this icon, or you can use the keyboard by pressing F8. If you can read down there, there is F8. So if you press on F8, it will be on. If you press F8 one more time, it will be off, and so on. So let us keep it on and choose the line command. And now let us draw a line, a horizontal line that starts from the 0, 0 point. So this is the start point, and press enter. Then I'd like now, as you can see, as you try to move the mouse, the line it is constrained to be just horizontal. How about if you would like to draw a vertical line, you just move the cursor up above the start point that you just picked, that you just specified for the line, which is the 0 point, is going to be shown vertical line. So for example, if you would like to draw a horizontal line with a length, let's say 100 millimeter length, so you're just going to type 100 here. Use the keyboard, type 100 and press enter or space. So automatically we already got a line with a horizontal line, which is with a length starting from the 0 point with the length 100 millimeter. How about if you would like to draw then a vertical line with 200 millimeter length? Just you have to move the cursor up. You have to see the line already going up or going down. How about, for example, if you would like to go up, you have to move the cursor without clicking anything. Just move the mouse. To see the line already going up, then type the 200, which is the distance, then press enter. So we already having a line that has been jumped up with 200 millimeter. How about if you would like to move to the right then? So to move to the right, you have to see the line going to the right in this way, then type the length. Let's say that we're gonna move right 50 millimeter. So this is like you are giving incremental distances, like you're already moving in either horizontal or vertical line. Then how about if you would like to move down? So I'm gonna move down, let's say with 150 millimeter length. So, and press enter. Then I decided to go left with 150 millimeter length and press enter. Then I decided to close the shape. So I can close directly the shape using this point, or just as we agreed, just type C and enter, you're gonna close the loop. So we're gonna end up with a closed loop that is composed of set of lines, but all of these lines are either horizontal or vertical lines. So this is one of the most simplest ways of creating lines or drawing lines using AutoCAD, using the ortho mode, that activate the ortho mode to be on, and just move the mouse right or left and give incremental distances. So you're gonna create horizontal or vertical line. This ortho mode put constraint over the line to be either horizontal or vertical. Then how about if I decided to draw inclined line? To draw an inclined line, as we agreed, for any two-dimensional sketch, the line it will be either horizontal or vertical. The simplest way, or inclined. The simplest way to draw horizontal or vertical lines, activate or use the ortho mode. To draw an inclined line, you should deactivate. We can work even with the ortho mode is already on. But to draw inclined line, we do have two options. One of the options is just to use the dynamic input that I just removed. So it means that I'm gonna go back again to the dynamic input icon on this one and press on it. Then remember that I don't have anything that already activated. The cursor is still two intersecting lines and with a small little box in the middle. It means that there is no command already activated. Then I'm gonna press L and enter to recall the line command. Now, as you can see, the dynamic input cursor has shown up. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pick start point, let's say from the 0, point, and press enter. Then I'd like to draw inclined line. So I have to see the line with inclination. As you can see, there is a constraint, as you can see here over this one, that there is a constraint over this line to be 0 degree. As you can see, the 0 degree, this one, it is already 0. If I moved up, it has another constraint that it has an angle of 90 degree. We can switch between the length and the angle. How we can switch between the length and the angle? You can simply press the tab icon key. Use the keyboard and press the tab. You automatically gonna switch between the length and the angle. So for example, you can specify a length, whatever it is, like 200. Then you can switch to the angle, just tab it to the angle. So as you can see, it has been jumped, like it has constraint over it is locked here. As you can see, the lock icon, it is locked. It means that right now it has 200 millimeter length. Then you can specify the angle, let's say like 45 degrees, and press enter. So now we already got an angle. We got a line with a length 200 millimeter. The length of this line, there is 200 millimeter, and it is inclined over the x-axis with 45 degree. The 45, or the angle that we specify, is measured all the time from the x direction, from the positive x direction, going to the counterclockwise direction to specify the angle. But to draw an inclined angle using the length and the angle, this is not practical in all the cases, because in many cases in terms of engineering drawing, we define the coordinates, or we specify a line which is already inclined using two dimensions. One is horizontal dimension, one is vertical dimension, as we discussed the previous meeting. So to explain this point, let us consider here this example. How about if we do have here, how about if we decided to draw this shape? Like we already have here a horizontal line, and there is, okay, my bad. There is a horizontal line, and here there is another vertical line, and there is horizontal line a little bit longer, then vertical line, and then there is inclined line. So in terms of engineering drawing, if we're gonna look to this two-dimensional sketch, it is composed of one horizontal line. So let me switch here. So we're gonna have here, this is one horizontal line, second horizontal line, third, fourth, and fifth. The fifth, it is inclined line, vertical line, horizontal line. So as we agreed, any two-dimensional sketch, if we're gonna talk about the line it would be either horizontal, vertical, or inclined. So let us assume some dimensions here, like the distance between these 2 points here. This horizontal dimension, it is like 100 millimeter, and we agreed that any dimension that we're gonna put is gonna be in millimeter. And let us assume that this height, it is already given by, let's say, 40 millimeter, and this height it is already given by 30 millimeter. This horizontal distance from here to there already given, let's say, by 50 millimeter, and this height intuitively is going to be the same, and that's it. So these are the data or the dimensions of this shape. As we agreed the previous meeting, even when we practice drawing similar shapes by hand, we said that you have to specify a start point. You can start from any sharp corners or from any points, it's up to you. For example, in AutoCAD, you're gonna do the same. AutoCAD drawing, looks like you're gonna draw, it is typically like you drawing by hand. It is not that difference, okay? So what we're gonna do basically, so AutoCAD drawing, looks like drawing by hand, as I mentioned. So let us assume that I'm gonna start from this corner, and I'm gonna assume that this is like 0, 0 point. Like this is the 0, 0 point for the AutoCAD drawing. So what does it mean if I ask you to draw this shape by hand? What you're gonna do, you're gonna start from a point, then you're gonna draw a horizontal line, and over this horizontal line, you're gonna measure 100 millimeter length, and just draw a horizontal line with 100 millimeter length. Then you're gonna draw another vertical line with 40 millimeter length. Then you're gonna stop here, because you're gonna able to find this inclined line unless you specify the start point and the end point of this line to connect them. So once you draw this vertical line, you're gonna get this point, but you don't have yet this point. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna switch to the other side and draw a vertical line. Then from this end point, you're gonna draw a horizontal line. What is the length of this vertical line? What you're gonna do, you're just gonna sum 40 plus 30. This is gonna give us this total height. Then you're gonna draw a horizontal line to the right with this dimension. How long is this dimension? Is gonna be the difference between the 100 negative the 50, right? It's gonna be the 100 length. If you subtract the 50, which should be the small little distance, which has no lines here, if you subtract 100 negative 50, this is gonna give us the length of this line. It means that you're gonna draw a horizontal line with 50 millimeter to find this point. Then you just gonna connect them together, right? So basically, this is what you're gonna do if you decided to draw it by hand. So let us do it the same here, and I'm gonna do it with a little bit different way, okay? So if we're gonna look to the AutoCAD here, again, what we're gonna do, we're just gonna recall line. I'm gonna ask AutoCAD to create a line, and I'm gonna start from the 0, 0 point. So I'm gonna type 0, 0 on the keyboard and press enter. So this is the start point. Make sure that you activate the ortho mode, because I'm going to draw horizontal line and vertical lines. So I'm gonna draw a horizontal line with 100 millimeter length. Then I'm gonna jump up with 40 millimeter length, right? Then I'm gonna stop. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna cancel the line command again, and I'm gonna recall it back. To recall a command that we just canceled, you can directly press enter or space. There is no need to type L and press enter. If you directly press enter, you're recalling what the last command that you was using. I just was using the line command. So if you press directly enter or space, you're recalling line command again. And I'm gonna start from this point. Then I'm gonna jump up with total height. The total height, it should be the 30 plus the 40 height, which is gonna be the 70, and press enter. Then what you're gonna do, you're just gonna move to the right. If we move to the right, we have to move with the 50 millimeter length, which should be the length of this line, and press enter. And right now we already got, if we even cancel, we already got the end point, this point here. It should be this point, and this point here, it should be this point. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna record the line command again and just connect this point to this point to draw the inclined line. So we got this inclined line, which should be this one. So we got the same shape. Typically, as you can see, we're just repeating the thing what we should do by hand. AutoCAD, especially for two-dimensional sketching or any two-dimensional sketching, you're just gonna follow the same procedure that like typically the same like you already drawn by hand. So anyway, this is how we can create this drawing. Someone else is gonna say, I do have a better option. As you can see, for example, or a different option. As you can see, when we created this drawing, we did some calculations in terms of dimensions. Like for example, I had no idea about this height, right? The height of this line, it was not given. So what I did here, I did calculation. I summed the 30 plus the 40. And the same thing, how about this line? I made some calculations to subtract the 100 negative the 50 to end up with a 50 length for this line. How about if I don't want to do any, like calculation and directly draw the shape with no calculations? So it means that you have to stick to the given dimension and you have to use them. And this is what we would like to demonstrate here, especially for any inclined line. For this inclined line, we can easily specify the start point. Like if we start from this point, draw a horizontal line with 100 millimeter length, then we jump up with 40 millimeter length, we got this point. Then how about this inclined point, this inclined line? We have to specify this point first, then we're gonna connect them. How we can look at this point? Any inclined line, as you can see, it has two dimensions. One is a horizontal dimension, the second one is a vertical dimension, as we agree. Like this is the practical thing. Practically speaking, in terms of engineering drawing, if you're gonna even create an engineering drawing for another engineer, you have to represent the dimensions and the details of any inclined line. This is what preferred in terms of engineering, that we identify the dimensions of the inclined line using horizontal and vertical dimensions. There is another way. I can cancel these two dimensions, right? Then instead I just specify the total length, which should be the square root of the 30 square plus the 50 square. I mean, this should be the hypotenuse of this triangular shape, right? And then you're gonna specify this angle theta, just calculate the angle theta like the tangent, the tan inverse of the 30 over the 50. So instead of giving the 30 and 50, you're just gonna do another calculation, other calculations, and end up with the length and the angle. And instead of giving or specifying the details of this line using two dimensions, one horizontal, one vertical, you can use the length and angle. But this is not practical. Practically speaking, it is, and even in terms of engineering concept, it is preferred to use horizontal and vertical dimension instead of the length and angle for specifying the details of inclined lines. So that's why, as I mentioned, we practically speaking, we're gonna use the angle and the line option to specify inclined line. And instead, we have to use two dimensions like vertical dimension and horizontal dimension like the 30 and the 50. So how we can do it basically, it is very simple. What you're gonna do is simply, once you find this point, if you draw a vertical line with length 30, then another horizontal line to the left with 50, the end of the 50 line, the horizontal line, is gonna be this point automatically. Then you can connect them to end up with the inclined line. Then once you draw these two lines, you're gonna remove them. This is what you're gonna do when you draw by hand, or even if you decided to use AutoCAD, you're gonna do the same. You're just gonna draw two virtual lines. You're gonna draw two lines, whatever by hand or AutoCAD, then you have to remove them. You have to cancel or erase these lines again. Once these two lines, I use them to assist me to locate the end point of this inclined line. And this is what we're gonna do basically here. So what I'm gonna do again, going back to the AutoCAD, I'm gonna start line. Then from the 0 point, I'm gonna draw a horizontal line with 100 millimeter length. The end of this line, I'm gonna jump up with 40. Then I got the end of this line is exactly this point. Then I need to specify the other point. I do have two dimensions, one vertical, one horizontal. So I'm just gonna follow the given dimensions. I'm gonna draw another line I'm gonna go up more with 30, and then I'm gonna go to the left, go left with 50. The end of the 50, it should be this end point. But the question is, where is this point that we got before? It should be somewhere here, right? Over this line. But as you can see, you have to activate the Ortho Snap, the O Snap, the O Snap, the O Snap. The O Snapping, this stands for Object Snapping. The object snapping in AutoCAD, this is a beneficial thing or option in AutoCAD that you can track or find or pick a point like the end of two lines. I need an end point because the end of this vertical line with a length 40, it should be the end point, which is this one. So if you just connect this one, click on this one, we already got this is the inclined line that we want. And this is the vertical line, which is the 40. But how about these other two lines? These are two extra lines that I just draw them, but I don't want them. They shouldn't be included in the drawing. I use them to locate a point, then you have to remove them. How we can remove a line? Simply, or any object, it shouldn't be just line. On AutoCAD, select the object and press delete. Directly it will be deleted. So now we got this vertical line, this inclined line, then simply you can draw the horizontal line. What is the length of this line? It should be 50, but remember that we won't gonna do any calculations. So how we can come up with the length of this line? Simply if you pick line, this line, it should be drawn from the start point, which is this one, to somewhere to another point here, right? But this other point, we have no clue where is it, where exactly it is. But this point, according to the given shape, it should be above this start point that we already have it in the AutoCAD so far. Above this one with some vertical distance. And even this vertical distance, we have no clue of this distance. We can calculate like 30 plus 40, yes, but remember that we are not doing calculations. So what I'm gonna do basically, I'm gonna start here. Then I have to set up a line. Somehow this line, it should end with a point typically conceded to this point but above. So how you can do it basically, you can use O Snap, which is object snapping in AutoCAD, which is extension. How we can do it? Simply just go to the point that you would like to extend its end. If you just go to this point and jump up again, you're gonna see like a vertical dash line already shown. And there is like X point already located. If you directly just press here, you got the end point of this horizontal line typically above this point in the vertical direction. Then simply you can either close the shape by typing C and enter, or you just pick this end point to close the shape to draw the last vertical line. So this is another way. So anyway, whatever it is, pick your method, your approach of drawing these set of lines. In all of these cases, it is very simple. You can create the shape and all of them are acceptable. So we do have lots of options. We do have lots of methods of creating two-dimensional sketches or even three-dimensional sketches generally in AutoCAD. But the key point here is how you can pick the method that is more practical, that saves time. You can give the same drawing to someone who can spend the whole day drawing it, and you can give the same drawing to another one who can finish it in just 5 minutes. So what is the difference? Is the practical use. This guy already using a method which is saving time, and it is more practical. Here we are talking about the practical thing. So this is for the line, how we can create a line in general using AutoCAD. Remember again that it would be horizontal line, vertical line, or inclined line. Last thing that we would like to mention about the line is, it's just like in some cases, for example, how about if we created a line and forget about here, the ortho mode, like we have just this line. If you try to select the line, and remember even that last meeting we discussed the difference between the green selection box and the blue selection box, right? But anyway, how about if we have this line? As you can see, once we select a line or any other object, let us draw a circle, and we're gonna explain with more detail how we're gonna draw the circle. If you select an object like a circle or a line, AutoCAD highlights some small boxes like this one and this one and this one over a line. over a circle there are lots of boxes, like 5 boxes, and it depends. So any object that is basically multiple points. There is not just one point. I'm talking about any object which is not a point. And AutoCAD, once you select this object, AutoCAD specifies or assigns some boxes to this object. Like the line, for example, these boxes are 3 boxes. One in the middle of the line. This point, this box is typically exactly in the middle of this line. One at this end, one on the other end. For the circle, you're going to have another discretization of these boxes. But anyway, forget about the circle for now. Just focus on the line. So let us cancel the circle for the line. So what is the function of these boxes? Basically, this gives us like more freedom to control the line, like move the line and so on. For example, if you come close without clicking anything over any point, you're going to see some highlights already shown here. So for example, you'd have multiple options, either to extend the length of this line for some reason. This is like kind of modifying over an object that you just did it. We created a line, and for some reason we found that there is something wrong with this line and we would like to modify what we draw. So simply you can just come close over, just focus over, move the mouse over this box. It will be with the orange color. Then once you click on it, once you click on it, it will be red highlighted. Then you can move it. You can even move this point to another point. So if you move to another point here, we already changed the length of the line. We already changed the angle of inclination of this inclined line, right? Even you can use it and try to extend it or shorten the line or extend it further. But you have to make sure that the snapping is already shown. The O-snap, it should be shown like here. As you can see, there is 2 small triangular green triangles, 2 triangles already, like touching each other at the vertex. This is known as the nearest snapping. Nearest, it means that you're gonna move this point by sticking to the line, concealing to the line, or you can extend it further above. Further, it means that you decide somehow to extend this point horizontal, or even you can extend this point vertical in this way, or even you can try to extend it over the same inclined line, but you have to make sure that this yellow line somehow considered to the white line. But we are not pretty sure that whatever we're gonna extend it over the same extension or not. But anyway, this is an option. Like this is like extra option that you can control more the line. So if you try to move any one of the ends of the line, you typically fixing the other point, this end point, and moving this point. So this is gonna change the length or the angle of the line. But how about if you would like to move the line or of it? You can simply just pick this point in the middle, and if you try to move it, you typically moving the line as it is with the same length, with the same inclination angle, but you are just moving the line to another point. This is something that you should consider, or just to know about it in case that you for some reason find there is that you have to use it for some reason. We basically, I'm gonna show you later some cases that we can use these boxes to play with the line, like to do modification for some practical reason, as we're gonna explain later. But this is some of the options that you should know about the AutoCAD as well, and you can do the same for the circle. When we explain the circle, I'm gonna show you how we can play with the circle using these boxes. So this is for the line. Now let us move to another command, which is the polyline. For the polyline, as we mentioned, that for some cases, if you remember when we discussed this closed loop, like we're gonna press C here and close the loop. So this is a closed loop, but this closed loop, it is composed of multiple lines. How about if you would like to form a loop that is just only one single object? So this is multiple objects. How about if we needed like a single object? There is an option in AutoCAD to do it. Basically, there are two different methods or ways that by which we can combine. We can even combine all of these multiple objects into just one object. And this is basically what we have to do when we convert any two-dimensional sketch into three-dimensional model. And this is what we're going to discuss later when we discuss the three-dimensional modeling over AutoCAD. But anyway, there is an option that we can do it very quick using Polyline. If you press on this command, but remember that I'm just gonna explain this command, but I don't believe that we're gonna use it. We barely gonna use this one, especially we may need it in some special cases or in some cases when we would like to convert the two-dimensional sketch into a three-dimensional model. But anyway, for this command, basically, if you just read the instruction over the command window, you're gonna find here specify start point. It's gonna ask you to specify start point, so we specify the start point. Then it's gonna ask you to specify next point. I specify the next point, then specify next point, next point, next point, next point. So what is the new thing? As you can see, I just keep drawing lines, typically the same way like we draw lines. But what is the difference? If we cancel the command and you try to choose any one of these lines, all of them will be chosen, will be selected like a single loop, like a single object. This is what I'm talking about. And if you decided to do the same shape using just line, not polyline, just line command, these lines will be broken lines. These lines, if you try to select any one of these, you aren't gonna select all of the shape. You're just gonna select every one of these like separate lines. This blue thing that I selected, these are the same shape, similar shape, but it is composed of multiple lines. But this one, it is just single line, like a single object. This is single object which is created by Polyline. This is the key idea of the Polyline. And it is not that this case, basically, we can use it for so many other things. Like, for example, how about if you draw a line, then for some reason, you decided to draw a curve, like you're gonna continue the same object, and especially in case that you do have an object that is composed of lines, set of lines, then set of curves, and then set of lines again, but all of these lines and curves are just belong to the same single object. So how we can do it? There is an option here. If you're gonna look, we said that anything that is confined between the square bracket, these are options. How you can switch to any one of these options? Just type the letter that is already highlighted, or just click on it. If you just click on any one of these options, left click, you can automatically switch to this option. So for example, how about if I decided to draw arc? So if you just type A and enter, so automatically, instead of drawing lines, right now we can draw arcs. Then you can keep drawing arcs as you move with the mouse in this way. How about if you would like to reset back again into drawing lines? So you're gonna find one of these options is line here. If you press L or just click on it, so you're gonna reset back again to drawing lines. How about if you would like to close the shape? You can close it this way, just go and use the snap of the AutoCAD, or you just type C, because you're gonna find one of the options is close, C and enter, so you're gonna close the shape. But the good thing of this Polyline that all of these objects are single objects, single thing in the AutoCAD. This is the basic idea of the Polyline, but I don't believe that we would need it for some practical two-dimensional engineering drawing, because as you remember, as we said, that we are doing engineering. So to do engineering, basically, we just draw these curves at this line, but we had no clue what are the exact dimensions, the locations of these points, of all of these different points. We have no clue of these things. So basically, I don't see, as you know, like more like a significant importance of this command, especially for engineering drawing for two-dimensional. But we're gonna need it for the three-dimensional modeling, as we are going to explain later. So this is for the Polyline command in addition to the line command. Now let us move to the circles. How we can draw a circle. A circle, what you should understand about the circle, and let us go over the theory of the two-dimensional modeling of circular passes or circular objects, basically. The circle in AutoCAD, just to explain, just to know about it. So in AutoCAD, basically, or in terms of two-dimensional sketching or modeling, there is no circle or there is no a perfect circle as we basically see. The circle, it is a set of very small segments of lines that already touch each other, already, like set up together to give like a circular path. So you're gonna see it like a circle, but in terms of computations, in terms of numerics, in terms of the numerical computation of, or the software, in terms of software and computer programming and so on, there is no circle. The circle, it should be like a set of lines, as we mentioned. Like for example, in this way. Like I'm gonna say that in AutoCAD you aren't gonna find a complete circle, but instead this circle, it will be broken down into very small segments. There is another segment, then there is another segment. All of these segments, like we calculate them and we arrange them together. So in such a way, when you see them, you're gonna see like there is a virtual circle already touching all or in tangent to all of these segments together to form like a circular path, but it is not 100% or it is not completely a circular path. This is basically how AutoCAD or any software like AutoCAD present any circular objects. And this is what we basically do in terms of circular programming, in terms of programming or software or computation, basically. That we break down any circle into small, very small segments of lines. So anyway, for the circle, how we can create it. To draw a circle, you should understand how we can draw a circle by hand. To draw a circle by hand, it is very simple. So what you're gonna do, you just need the canvas and you just specify the center point of the circle first. Then you're gonna fix the metal point or the metal end of the canvas at this center point. Then you're gonna open it with the radius of the circle and you just rotate it till you're gonna draw the circle, right? A complete circle. You can even just rotate it a complete rotation with 360 degrees to end up with a complete circle, or you just can draw a portion or a part of the circle. It's going to be like an arc in a way. But anyway, this is how we can basically draw the circle by hand. So it is basically two main information that you need. The first one is where is the location of the center point. The second thing, how much of the radius or the diameter of the circle. The radius, it should be the distance between the center point to the circumference or the exterior or the boundary of the circle, which is R, or even we can specify the distance, the biggest distance, the largest distance over the main diagonal of the circle, the diameter of the circle. And as you know, that the diameter, it should be double the radius, right? Very simple thing. But if we're gonna talk about practically speaking, or in terms of engineering things, like in some cases you may have, you can see in some engineering drawing that we specify or define the dimension of the circle using either a radius or diameter. Why both? Why we are using both of them? Anyway, in terms of drawing by hand, you have to open the canvas with the radius. So if you have the diameter, you have to divide over 2 to find the diameter, then you can draw the circle. But in terms of engineering drawing, and this is what we're going to discuss with more detail when we practice how we can add dimensions and put dimensions to a drawing that we just created. In some cases, for example, if you do have, it is preferred in case that you do have incomplete, in case that we have an incomplete circle, like an arc, small arc, it is not a complete circle, it is better to specify the dimension of this arc using a radius. But in case that you do have a complete circle, it is preferred to specify the dimension of the circle using the diameter. So again, this is in terms of engineering, this is what we prefer, but we basically not sticking ourselves, are not following this standard. This is according to the ISO standard or the general standard of engineering drawing. Like in case that you do have an incomplete arc, an incomplete circle, which is an arc or a curve, just portion or a small portion of a circle. So it is preferred to specify the dimension of this arc using a radius, not a diameter. But in case that you have a complete circle, it is preferred to define the dimension of the circle using a complete diameter, not a circle and not a radius. So that's why basically we have the radius concept and the diameter concept, and that's why even in AutoCAD, when we draw a circle, you have the two options, either to specify the diameter of the circle or the radius of the circle. It's up to you. So that's why we do have the two options, and this is what we're gonna explain here for the drawing circle. If you just press on the arrow, the circle command is gonna be the third icon command, which is the third biggest icon in the draw banner. Remember that we still sticking to working on the draw banner. If you just press on this arrow, you're gonna see a long list here that includes so many options by which we can create circles. The main two options basically, the first one, which is center, comma, radius. It means that to draw a circle, you should have two things. You have to have two information. The first one is the center of the circle, and as shown here in this preview, like we have to specify first the center, then it's gonna ask you about the radius, how much it is. Or you can specify the center or the diameter of the circle, as we explained. And there are some other options. We're gonna go over them, especially the 2 points, the 3 points, but are for the tangent, radius, tangent. We're gonna skip them till we discuss the tangents later. So today we're just gonna discuss these the first four options. Starting with the center and radius, if you just press this option, and this is by default, this is the default options in AutoCAD. If you just press on it, and again, just read the instruction. This is your guidance. So if you read the instruction, AutoCAD asks you specify center point for circle. So it means that we have to specify center point. Center point is just a point. We do have different options on AutoCAD to specify a point. Wherever you do have a point that is already located at end of one of the objects, or you can directly click on the screen, or you just can use the keyboard and to specify X and Y coordinates for a point. So for example, let us specify 0 point at the center point for the circle and press enter. So we got the center point. Automatically, why we press enter? So we type 0, 0. Why do we have to press enter or space? To confirm that you just specified the center. We give coordinates. You have to press enter to tell AutoCAD that these are the coordinates of the center point. Then AutoCAD gonna take these coordinates and start to build a circle. But as you can see, the circle is movable. Like we have no clue how much is the radius. And as you can see, there is a dashed broken line, yellow line that is specified the radius that increase as you move the mouse. We already changing the radius value. Then AutoCAD by default is gonna ask you specify the radius of the circle. So simply you can type the radius value, or even if you clicked because as you move the mouse, the length or the value of the radius increases, like 64.5, then increases 71.25, and so on. So for example, if I clicked without typing anything, so automatically AutoCAD gonna create a circle with the radius that is set up between the center point that you specified as 0 point and the point that you clicked on the screen. Automatically AutoCAD gonna do some calculations, because now we do have coordinates here. Now we do have another coordinates. At this point that you clicked here, AutoCAD gonna do calculations to end up with the radius or the distance between these 2 points. This distance will be defined as the radius of the circle. Then AutoCAD is gonna set up and draw the circle. This is one option. So how we can recall, again, let us recall the circle. How we can ask AutoCAD or just activate the circle command. You can press on the click on the icon, or you can simply, like line, type C, which stands for circle, and press enter. So how we can recall line? Just L and enter, or press the icon. The same thing for the circle. You can press C and enter, or press on the icon in the panel up there. So C, enter. So we're gonna use the last option. because as we mentioned, we have multiple options, but for the line we have only one option, right? I mean, there is multiple options or methods like the circle, where we basically do have different ways of creating lines on AutoCAD, but basically for the circle, we do have these options. So by default, we are using the circle, the center, and the radius. So AutoCAD is going to ask us to specify the center point. Again, let us specify the 0, point, then press enter. Then it's going to ask us about the radius, how much it is. Let us assume that we have a circle with the radius 50. So we just simply type 50 and press enter. So AutoCAD going to set up a circle where the center point is already located at 0, point and its radius is 50. Very simple. How about if we have no clue of the radius, and instead the diameter is already given to us in an engineering drawing that we already creating? We knew we have a value for the diameter, but we don't have a value for the radius. Someone gonna say, it is not a big deal. Divide by 2, you're gonna end up with the radius. Yes. How about if you would like to do it with no calculations? So with no calculation, simply you have to switch into the diameter option. So AutoCAD, read again, specify center point of the circuit 0, 0 and press enter. Then it's gonna ask you to specify the radius, or there is another option which is diameter. But as you can see here, there is something new here. Here we do have the square box, the square brackets, and we have only one option just to switch to, which is the diameter. We can switch to the diameter, but there is another value here which is 50 that is confined between these two bigger or less than symbol, like this special brackets, right? So this value, this is the default value, the default value, the current default value. And if you remember the previous circle that we just removed, the radius of this circle was 50. So how about if you would like to draw another circle with the same radius that you just created or you just used before? You can directly press enter. So if you, for any command, this is a very important notice, for any command on AutoCAD that you are doing, whatever it is, circle, line, any command, if you're gonna see any value between these two special brackets, this indicates that this is a default value and you can use it right away without typing anything if you press enter or space. So for example, to explain it, I just draw a circle and I've done of this circle with a radius 50. So I'm gonna draw, for example, let us start from the scratch. I'm gonna draw a circle from the 0, point with a radius, let's say 20, and press enter. So this is the first circle. How about if you would like to draw another circle next to it at another center point, but still with the same radius? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pick line one more time, a circle one more time. And then let us assume that this is the center point, because it's gonna ask me about the center point. Then I'm still gonna use the same radius. So you can type 20 and press enter, right? So here you are doing like 3 steps. You go to the icon, right, to click on it, specify center point, this is the second step. Then you type the radius value, which should be the same, 20, and press enter to draw it, right? Can I skip some of these 3 steps? Yes, you can. For example, without moving the mouse, there is no need to move the mouse to the icon and press on it. As we mentioned, you can record the last command that you just used or drew before by pressing enter directly. So if I press enter directly, you're already getting the last circle, the last command that you used, which was circle. I'm pretty sure that it was circle. So I'm recording circle one more time, and that's why here, ask me, specify center point for the circle, right? So this is the center point. Then he asked me about the radius. The radius that I used before, it is recorded here. It is 20. If you would like to use it, press enter directly without typing 20. You got my point? So there is no need to type 20. If you press directly, you're gonna end up with a circle. Press again, specify a center, press again, circle. Enter, point, center point, enter, a circle. Enter, center point, enter, a circle. Enter, center point, enter, a circle. All of these circles have the same radius, which is 20. Make sense? This is how we can use and play. Again, this command window, this is your main teacher. This is the follow the instructions that already given and know how you can read the command window. So this is how we can draw a circle using the radius. How about if we would like to switch to the diameter? So we're gonna pick a circle, again, command, and from the 0, point, and now I won't gonna specify the radius. I would like to specify the diameter, so I have to switch. And remember that the default radius value, it is 20. See what's gonna happen when we switch to the diameter. To switch to the diameter, type D and enter. As you can see, we switch to another option. Automatically, the default value has been changed as well to 40 because the diameter, it should be double the radius, right? The radius was 20, the default value has been changed to 40. So if you would like to use the diameter as 40, press enter directly. There is no need to type 40. No, this time I'm gonna change to 60 diameter, for example. So now we're already gonna draw, we're gonna draw a circle with a diameter of 60. If you recall the command one more time, it's gonna ask you about the center point. This is the center point. Then it's gonna ask you to specify the radius because the default thing is just to specify radius. So if you specify the radius, so it should be the last default value that I just used. The last radius value that I just used, it was 60 as diameter, which should be 30 as radius. So that's why the default value here is 30. Make sense? So if you would like to use it again, you can use and enter and center, enter. You can keep on drawing circles with radius 30 or diameter 60. So these are the first two options, how we can draw a circle either using center and radius or center and diameter. Make sense? The other two options basically is just to set up a circle between 2 points, and there is another option that we can set up a circle between 3 different points. I don't see, like more practical use for these two options, but in some very special cases, we might need them. Like for example, for some reason, how about if we have 2 lines, like one line in this way, and there is another line here. And for some reason, we would like to set up a circle between these 2 lines that intersect with these 2 lines. To intersect, not tangent to the line. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna choose circle. If I ask, for example, like assume that we would like to set up a circle here between these 2 lines in such a way that the end point of this line and the end point of this line, they are located over the same line which belong to the main diagonal over the diameter of the circle. So how we can do it basically, how we can do it. For this one, you're gonna choose circle, then you just read the instructions. It's gonna ask you to specify the center point of the circle. We have no clue where it should be the center point of the circle because we don't have, if we set up a line here, we can pick this midpoint to be the center point of the circle, but we don't have this point. So this option, it is not an option. I have no clue of the center point. So it means that you have to switch to another option, either to 3 points, or 2 points, or TTR, which stands for tangent radius. As for the TTR option, we're gonna skip this one for today's lecture, but we're gonna consider it later. But as for the 3 point or the 2 point option, 2 point option, let us choose the 2 points. So you're just gonna type 2P, 2 point, and press enter. So it's gonna ask you to specify, it's gonna switch a little bit the requirement from being specifying the center to specify the first endpoint of the circle diameter. So let us assume that this is the first endpoint of the circle diameter, then it's gonna start to set up a circle here. But it requires another point. So it's gonna ask you to specify second endpoint of circle's diameter, just pick this endpoint. So automatically you're gonna set up a circle between these 2 lines in such a way that the ends of these lines are located over the same line, which is the main diagonal of or diameter of this circle. But practically speaking, or in terms of engineering, we just set up these circles, but we have no clue about the exact location of their center point. In some very specific cases, we may need it. According to my experience, because I'm using engineering drawing a lot, I barely use this command. Another similar one, which is drawing using, instead of just drawing, set up a circle between 2 points. This is to set up a circle between 2 points. We can set up a circle between 3 points. So how we can choose this one? You can either choose the command here, just click on it, then specify. It's gonna ask you to specify center point for the circle. Here we switch to another option, which is specify first point of the circle, because we are using the 3 point option. So this is the first point, then there is a second point, then there is a third point. So we choose 3 points that belong to the circumference of this circle as shown here in this preview. Just 3 points over the circle. You can simply set up a line between them. A circle between them. So simply this would be used in case that you have 3 lines like this way. How about if we do have 3 lines here, and for some reason we would like to set up a circle between them? So I should use the 3P option, just 1 point, another point, and a third point. Then I'm gonna set up a circle between these 3 lines. In very specific cases, we might need this option, so we're gonna use it. But the main default option, and keep in mind that it is advised to keep this one as center radius or center diameter. This is basically the main option that we are used to create circles or draw circles using engineering drawing. So again, 2 main steps to create a circle: center point and radius or diameter. How we can specify the center point? It requires coordinates like X coordinate and Y coordinate, as we're gonna show, as I'm gonna show you through an example right now on how we can use lines and circles to create simple 2-dimensional sketching. But for the circle, as we discussed, typically the same thing that we discussed with the line. When we choose a circle, you're gonna find like 5 small boxes here, right? 1 box in the center. If you decided to completely move, just click the center. How you can choose the center? Just move the mouse without clicking anything. Wait a little bit to be orange, then click on it, it's gonna be red. Now you picked the point. Then you can move the circle anywhere. So you're completely moving the circle. It means that you're shifting or moving the center point. This is the first information. What else should be known to set up a circle? We need a radius. To change the radius, you can pick any one of these 4 points that belong to the circumference and just move it. You can choose this point, pick this point, and just move it to increase or expand the circle, or you can squeeze more the circle, just decrease the radius of the circle. It's up to you. So this is also another thing, the same thing that we discussed for the line, how we can play with the circle and do a little bit, very quick modification, instant modification to the circle diameter or radius and or circle size, in addition to its location in terms of the center point, using these small boxes. So this is generally for the line, for the polyline, for the circle. Remember that we skipped these 2. We're gonna discuss them when we discuss the tangencies. Also, we're gonna skip for now the discussion for the arc, because in a way we're gonna explain it when we discuss the tangencies class, but we have to practice how we can do tangencies first by hand. So we still have some few commands which are the most important one that we basically should use when we decide to create any 2-dimensional sketch. The most important command for sure is the line, the circle. These are the most 2 important commands that we can just use these 2 in addition to some few commands that would be used for modifying a 2-dimensional sketch to create any 2-dimensional sketch, whatever it is, simple or complex one. As we discussed and we agreed that any 2-dimensional sketch is composed of just lines and circles or arc, and the arc itself or the curve is a portion or a part of a circle, but it is like trimmed circle. Like you're gonna set up a circle and you're just gonna cut some of this circle and remove it. You're gonna end up with an arc, and this is what we basically are going to discuss in the tangencies later. So now it means that let us skip the arc for now, and let us move to some other command that we, in some cases, we can use. The first one is the rectangular, the second one is polygon. Rectangular shape, it means that it is four-side shape, and these four sides should be, you know, like perpendicular to each other. So to draw a rectangular shape, simply you can use, there are different options basically. One of the default options is just to pick one first corner, one second corner. So you're gonna set up a rectangular shape between these 2 points as rectangular shape, which is, we can draw the same shape but using 4 lines instead of just drawing rectangular shape. So if you would like to save a little bit some time, you can use the rectangular shape command, and you can read, there are more options that you can read here. You can set up, for example, with fillet and or chamfer, or we can give it like a little bit thickness or width to control the dimensions. So these things is gonna be clear, especially when we discuss the modification. But for now, the simplest way of creating a rectangular shape is just pick one corner, another corner, and even you can use these lines to play with these corners. Even you can move this line as it is, because this is like different lines. So you can play with the shape of the rectangular, this rectangular shape. So we broke it down. It won't gonna be rectangular in a way. It is just polygon shape, or you know, like four-side shape. The polygon is more common, like how about if we do have like 6 sides or 5 sides or whatever it is. So if you decided to choose polygon, you can, based on the arrow here, you're gonna find polygon, and the polygon is the first thing that is gonna ask you about it, how many sides of the polygon shape that you would like to set up. Is it 5 sides, 6 sides, 7 sides, whatever it is. So if it is 4, it's gonna be like a rectangular shape. If it is 6 sides, so it's gonna have like hexagonal shape. So if we choose 6 sides and press enter, you have to confirm that you choose 6 sides. Then it's gonna ask you to specify the center of the polygon. To draw a polygon, it looks like we gonna draw a circle. It's gonna be the same procedure like drawing a circle. To draw a circle, you have to specify the center point of the circle. Then it's gonna ask you about the diameter or the radius of the circle. So polygon, it is typically the same. It works with the same concept that we just explained above here. Like to set up a polygon, basically, just to explain it here. Imagine that we draw a circle. Assume that we do have this center point, and then we set up a circle here around this center point. So we do have different options, either to set up a polygon shape like hexagonal shape with one side already tangent to the circle, and there is another side that is tangent to the other circle, to the same circle, and there is another side. So this is the third side, and this is the fourth side in this way, and this is the fifth side, and there is the sixth side. So these are 6 sides, all of them already tangent to the circle, right? There is another option that it means that we already set up a hexagonal shape with 6 sides, all of them are tangent to the circle. Make sense? There is another option that we can set up hexagonal shape, but instead of using side that tangent to the circle, we're gonna use side that intersect with the circle. Like we gonna have, this is the first side, this is gonna be the second side, this is gonna be the third side, this is gonna be the fourth side, and the fifth and the sixth side. So what is the difference between the black hexagonal shape and the small one? Is the size. Right? But all of them, both of them, they belong to the same circle. We're just using one circle to set up 2 hexagonal shapes, right? One hexagonal shape, which is a little bit bigger, the black one is bigger than the smaller one. Why bigger? Because it is tangent to the circle. The smaller one, which is the red one, it is intersecting with the circle. So the same circle, we can use it to set up 2 different polygons with 2 different sizes that belong to the same circle. So that's why when we create polygons, basically, we have first to specify the number of sides, then you have to draw like a circle, like virtual circle. Automatically, AutoCAD gonna set up a hexagonal shape or a polygon shape around this circle. So to explain it basically, let us look here. So I'm gonna choose polygon, then it's gonna ask me about how many number of sides, because I choose 6 sides before, so that's why it is the default. Remember that any number or value that located between this special brackets, this indicates that this is the default value that you can use it directly. So since we already defined before 6 sides, and I'm gonna use 6 sides again, there is no need to type 6 and enter, just directly enter. We got the 6 sides. Then it's gonna ask you to specify the center of polygon. Center, it is looks like you're gonna draw a circle. So let us assume that this is the center point of this circle. Then once you click on it, and before he asks you about the radius, it's gonna give you one of 2 options, either to be inscribed circle, inscribed in a circle, or circumscribed about the circle. And this would distinguish which, because we said that for the same circle with the same radius with the same center point, we do have 2 polygons, not just one. One is bigger than the other one. One that is tangent to the circle, which is known as the circumscribed circle. Circumscribed about the circle. It means that it should be tangent to the circle, outside the circle, or it should be inscribed in the circle, it should be inside the circle. So it's which polygon that you want. He should ask you about this, which option. So let us assume that we can have inscribed circle, inscribed in the circle. Then, so we specify the center point, then it's gonna ask you to specify the radius of the circle. Which circle? We need it inscribed inside the circle, so you have to specify the radius. You can just give orientation for the hexagonal shape, or you can just confine to either horizontal or vertical direction, because we can give the hexagonal shape in this direction, oriented in this direction or this direction. It's up to you. So let us assume that we have 50 millimeter as radius. So this is gonna give us one hexagonal shape. Like there is, like for example, assume that there is at this center point is gonna be in this way. Like this is like the virtual point that should be there. And this is the hexagonal shape that already set up, inscribed into the circle, inside the circle. How about if we decided to draw a hexagonal shape, 6 sides also, using the same circle, but it should be circumscribed. Circumscribed, it means that it's gonna ask you about the number of sides. It is 6 still. Then it's gonna ask you to specify the center of the polygon. Just you have to pick the center. To pick the center using the snap, which is object snapping in AutoCAD, just go to over the circle to just activate, or the polygon to activate that, or to tell MATLAB just go over the circle, just pass over the circle without clicking anything. You just telling MATLAB that I want to show this all the snap objects, or all those snaps that related to this object that I just passed over. I passed over the circle, so it's gonna locate the center point of the circle. Click on it, because you have to use the same circle. Then it's gonna ask you, do you want it as inscribed or circumscribed? No, I want it circumscribed. So pick the other option, circumscribed. Then it's gonna ask you how much of the radius. If you remember, the radius of the previous circle was 50, right? If you press enter, you're gonna end up with another polygon, which is a little bit bigger than the previous one, but still belong to the same circle. The external, the circumscribed polygon, it is tangent to the circle at these points, right? Agree? As you can see, it is tangent over the circle, but this one is already intersecting to the circle at these vertices or these corners, right? So this is for the simply for the polygon, and we can use, and instead of just drawing 6 sides, you can draw tens of sides. It's up to you. Just to specify the number like 10 and press enter, and even I'm gonna use the same side inscribed, for example, and I'm gonna use the 10 with the 50 with the same circle. So you're gonna end up with another polygon but 10 sides and so on. So you can set up any shape with any side. This is also one of the good commands that would be used in some cases. So far we discussed the line, the polyline, the circle, and the rectangular shape, and the polygon. We're gonna skip the ellipse, because in terms of engineering drawing, we barely draw ellipse, because ellipse in terms, especially if we're going to talk about mechanical engineering things, so we barely using the ellipse. So I'm going to skip this one for now, in addition to the other commands. As we move forward through the class, we're gonna explain these commands. This is like extra things that we're gonna use some of them as we move through the class. So this is for the draw panel, and the most important command that we would use through the draw panel is line, circles, and in some cases we may use the polygons if you would like to set up polygon shape very quick. Instead, even we can draw it like set of lines, but in this case you may do some calculations. To skip doing the calculation, you can use directly the polygon command. So these are the most important ones, in addition to the tangent, tangent, radius, tangent, tangent, tangent. These two options or methods of creating circles on AutoCAD that we skip them, we're gonna discuss them later for the tangencies. Okay. In the next video, I'm gonna show you the most important commands in the modify panel and how we can use it for doing modification for shapes. Then we're gonna have a practice, and I'm gonna show you some exercises and how we can create it over AutoCAD.